Well, good morning, everyone. Well, as I suspected, there was a reason why the Dems were so desperate to bring out their version of the Epstein files because, as Tulsi Gabbard has announced, they have a ton of evidence on Barack Obama saying he was behind Russian collusion. I mean, after all, he was the president of the United States at the time of the 2016 election. So for him to say there was Russian collusion, well, he should have been the one stopping it and protecting it. Instead, he was behind it with Hillary Clinton. And we all know Hillary Clinton got fined $250,000 by the FCC for a part in the dossier. So they were desperate for the Epstein files. Now you got a lot of the Trump base all upset about it. I don't know why. They should know that this day was coming. There's going to be a lot of confusion. And I'm telling you right now, all these foreign conflicts between Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Iran, need to be taken care of before they start with that crap here in this country. Why? Because don't put it past the deep state to use those conflicts to stop what's going on here. In fact, that's what they're trying to do, along with the destruction of the Federal Reserve. We know Jerome Powell is ending his term, so he's either going to be forced out or he's going to end his term. Either way, he's hurting the economy right now because everyone else around the world, despite the fact the economy is not as good as ours, we have higher interest rates. This goes to show you that just because the person's a Republican, because Powell was nominated by Trump, but then he was re-nominated by Biden. That's all you need to know about Powell. So we have the Federal Reserve, the destruction of the Fed, and Barack Obama and Russian collusion. As I've been telling liberals for years, which is it? Was Barack Obama a great president, or did he fail to do his job? To which is, I don't have to pick anything. Basically, so you're admitting you're too prideful to admit that either he was behind it or he allowed it. Because contrary to what the left is trying to say, Trump being Putin's bitch, it seems like Obama was more of Putin's bitch. In fact, he was. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Obama had tried to do a Jimmy Carter and tried to do a quid pro quo. Hey, help me defeat Donald Trump and we'll work something out later. I wouldn't be surprised if that came out later either. If you remember, Jimmy Carter tried to get help of Brezhnev to help him defeat Reagan, which we know that didn't work. But those foreign conflicts need to be solved before we start anything over here. There needs to be the destruction of the deep state over there needs to be crushed totally before I think we get anything done over here. And once that happens, once the deep state is defeated over there, look out. Because once the Russian collusion thing is more unraveled, so will the great American theft of 2020. So will the Epstein list that all of a sudden the Democrats are worried about. And by the way, did you hear? Sean Colbert has been fired at CBS for the Late Show performance. And of course, as you hear, the left said, but he was number one in the time slot. Okay, look who his competition was. Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Fallon, who I still think is talented, and this talent's being wasted at NBC because that guy could sing, he could dance. He's actually funny when he's on the Tonight Show, being handcuffed. But Colbert was never funny. Jimmy Kimmel was never funny. And Conan O'Brien, who's also funny, he's also being handcuffed by TBS. That's his competition. And not for nothing, it's been known that Greg Gutfeld has been destroying him in the ratings. The reason why they won't say is because Greg Gutfeld is not in the same time slot. I think his time slot is from 11 to 12, whereas I think theirs is from 11:35, the four I mentioned, and past that. So if you really want to look at it, when Gutfeld's competing in that last half hour, Gutfeld's booming away in the ratings. So that whole thing about him being number one in his time slot from 11 to 12:30, it's crap. But all in all, they were probably paying Sean Colbert, or whatever his name is, Colbert. He's paying too much money to what he was bringing in. And let's face it, he wasn't funny over in Comedy Central, and he ain't funny on CBS. Jimmy Kimmel, I never found the appeal to him. He was kind of funny before he got to the show on ABC, but he hasn't been funny at all. In fact, he's been very combative and condescending and a real jerk. And I feel Conan O'Brien, funny guy, but he's being impeded by his own network. Jimmy Fallon's talented, but he took the big paycheck. I don't blame him. But he isn't as funny anymore because he's handcuffed. So you're seeing brick by brick everything being torn down. People are trying to say, well, look at Donald Trump's associate over at CBS who fired him. Okay, listen. For 10 years, since he came down that escalator, Trump was being trashed for 10 and a half years. Not because of one association on one network over the entire media network on the planet. That's your excuse? You're pretty lame. Sorry, you are. And you're desperate. But once those conflicts get solved overseas, and this starts breaking here domestically, this is when the hired help of illegals is going to take to the streets. Listen, this is what we've been waiting for. I say let's get it over with. Let's bring this to a head. Let's round these bastards up. Let's get them in military tribunals or on the federal courts or whatever it takes and get rid of them. What's your opinion down below? Let me know. Keep the country in prayer. Keep Donald Trump in prayer, because Donald Trump still got some terrible people around him, despite the fact he's got some good people. And I'm sure there's a spiritual war going around him right now. Not just with the remnant who's praying for him, but for the people who are around him, both good and bad. God bless you all. We'll talk to you later.